So across the top, we have a set of tools here above our basic area. And these are I like to call them the super tools, some of them. So the first one is called the crop overlay. So if you want to crop your photo, you click there. And this is another one of my favorite keyboard shortcuts. Tapping the R will take me to the crop, because every time I think of crop, I think R. Are you going to crop? Crop, you can just grab the corners and drag down and crop it however you want. If you know you're going to crop it to a certain aspect ratio, say you know you're going to make it a 5:7, you come over here and select 5:7, and it will give you that ratio. And as you drag the handles, it will maintain that aspect ratio. Or if it's going to be an 8:10, it's going to maintain that ratio as you crop. Or if you're going to leave it as shot, which is a 2:3, it'll maintain that aspect ratio. Or if you just like to crop, and when you select those, it's going to lock it, so you have to maintain that aspect ratio. Or if you just crop it custom. So I'm a believer that photos ought to be cropped the way they ought to look, and I try not to crop to aspect ratios much. I do some for my artwork because I sell a lot of prints and I have to mat them, and it's much more cost effective for me to buy mats that are one size rather than have 10 different sizes of holes within my 16:20 mat. So I try to think and shoot in a full frame manner. So it's a 2:3 crop ratio. So there you can just drag a middle handle and crop in on the picture. So this one I would probably crop a little bit like that. And then I click on the done down here, or double click or hit enter to signify that. But also within the crop is a tilt, an angle. There's auto, so you can click auto. That will automatically straighten up your picture. Or you can click on this level. And the one thing I hate seeing is oceans with tilted horizon. I will make comment. Any photo I see of yours, if you show me a picture and say, what do you think? And the horizon is crooked on the ocean, I'm going to say, you ever seen the horizon? Anyway, that drives me nuts, and almost as bad on a lake. But sometimes if the shoreline's going away, you can't always tell on a lake. But if I want to make that shoreline on the other side perfectly level, I've selected my level device, and I click in one spot, drag, hold down, and drag across, draw a line, and now it's going to make that level. So now my photo is perfectly level according to that line.
Thank goodness. You're driving me crazy, this picture.
Yeah, good. Yeah, she said, it's driving me crazy. And that's why I'm showing you this one on purpose. But if you wanted the mast of the boat to be what's perfectly level, so that should be vertical, you can draw a line there, and that's going to tip it back. So you can see in this one's not vertical, this one is. Well, that one probably really isn't vertical the way the boat's leaning or something, but so if we like this crop and we like that bit of horizon, so if the horizon's going back a little bit, or you can just come down here in the corner and your cursor becomes a double arrowed cursor, and you can just manually adjust it there, and you can also drag here. So there's lots of ways to get it square. And you can see as you drag on the angle tool, you have a grid that shows up, so that helps you line things up a little bit too. So you can line up the mast or the shoreline to the grid. Okay, then I click done, and I'm done there. Now it's nice and level, and she's not sitting there with her head cocked. The next one over is called the spot removal tool. So if you have some spots in your photos that you want to get rid of, this is a good way to do it. So what it does, as opposed to Photoshop, Lightroom copies something from one part of the photo and puts it into another part. So I'm highlighting this part of the photo. It's now going to say, okay, I'm going to take what's over here and put it into here. And I have two ways of doing that. I can clone it, which will do an exact copy, or I can heal, which they use their algorithms to blend it in fairly nicely. So if I hit enter or return and do that again, you now see that that is gone. That what was out there? Raft out in the water. It was gone. It was there before.
So can you go over that one more time? You pick
Yep.
what you want to have gone?
Right. So let me grab another photo over here and show you.
I've tried this many times and it just ends up being a mess.
Let me reset this one. Okay. So if I zoom in on this one, I see I have some crud on there. My sensor, which is a fairly common thing. So if I grab my spot healing tool, and if I move the wheel on my mouse, I can change the size, or I can change the size here. But it's much easier, I find, on the wheel on the mouse. And I want it to be as small as possible and cover what I'm doing. So I'm just dragging a little bit. And so now it's taking whatever's in the one that it created and copying it to that one. So and I can move this one. So I wanted to have part of the covered bridge up there in the sky. I could do that. But this one be in the sky, so it will just really quickly remove that spot. So I see there's another one down here, so I can, that one up the size of my brush, so I can just click once and it copies there. It will also let me, so sometimes I can't always see all my spots, so they have a thing called visualize spots, which is down here. If you click on that, it will show you a black and white inverted copy of your photo. And now you can see this spot there, so I'm just click, and you drag across. I know there's more over here. Click, click, and I'm just clicking and going from one to another, clicking as fast as I can, and it's just filling in all those spots. And when I uncheck that, it will show me, oh yeah, those are all. So if there's one that I did and I didn't want to do it, I can click on it. The dot becomes black again, and I can adjust it. I can either move this to another location, say I wanted to have trees up in the sky, or find a better pairing. Or if I want to get rid of it, I can just delete it. And Lightroom is essentially the same in Mac and Windows, except for this one thing. And this is a good enough reason to throw your Windows machines away and buy a Mac. When you hit delete on the Mac, it goes poof and you see a little cloud. Watch, listen, poof. Isn't that cool? Poof. Sorry, Windows folks, you don't get that thrill. You don't get that thrill. I know it's those Adobe people are just mean by not letting you have this fun. So poof, isn't that cool? Okay, so there's a spot there that I missed, so I uncopy that. It will also do larger areas, like say I have this power line, which I probably don't want in this photo. Now cloning is the one thing that I do in Photoshop that is much better than Lightroom, but I can get away with it sometimes. But if a picture like this, oops, too big, let me go back to fill. A picture like this, I want to get rid of that power line up there. If I try to do the whole thing at once, if I select all of that, it's probably not going to find another area of the photo to match that exactly. In this case, it's not too bad. Sorry. So I'll do a larger part, a larger thing in smaller pieces. That's bigger than I normally would do too. So I would just do that. The problem is you can't start where another one has covered it. So you kind of have to work your way in backwards. So this one I'd probably do in several.
You can't just draw a line.
Well, if you draw a line, if you're drawing a line over the whole thing, it might not find some other part of the photo to copy into that. So that's why you have to. Okay, so that's not too bad. So that's not too bad of a job. You'll see probably when I quit. See, there's some bad stuff going on there. There's some bad stuff going on there. If I blow it up a little bit more.
And again, that was heal, not clone.
Correct. That was
Okay.
right.
Okay.
So if I did that and use clone, let me get rid of one here. Oops, so much fun. And selected it as clone instead of heal. Zoom in a little bit here. Oh, so that's what I'm going to do. Okay, so if I do one as clone instead of heal, say we come across here. The end result is I don't know if you can see, but there's a hard line. You can see the exact outline. So it makes it exact. It doesn't blend it in at all.
Oh, okay.
So usually, almost always, you want to do heal rather than
Yeah. Okay.
So let's reset. So this is one thing, like I said, that Photoshop does much better. And if you have the classic version of Lightroom, you own Photoshop. So Lightroom and Photoshop talk to each other. The official name of Lightroom is Adobe Photoshop Lightroom. So in this case, I would want to take that picture over to Lightroom and work on it. And that's very easy to do. I would right click on the photo, edit in Adobe Photoshop.
Mm.
It will fire up Photoshop and it will open the photo in Photoshop, and then I can make my adjustments there. And I'm going to eat one of my peanut M&Ms. Sorry, online folks. You have to have your own. So it is now opened in Photoshop. Where's my Photoshop window? Where'd it go? Oh, it's hiding up here. So it's open in Photoshop now. And if I use, I've got, so if I use the healing brush, spot healing brush, and make my brush a little bit smaller, I can just come zipping down and that thing goes away right away perfectly. It's an amazing thing. Actually, that wasn't real perfect, was it? Look at that. That was a bad one. But the spot healing brush will do a lot better job on, say, something like the stones in the river, or if I want to get rid of the stones on the side, I just select them. Boom, it'll blend them. It looks at the rest of the photo and finds objects that seems kind of similar, and we'll fill them right into that. And since they're sister programs, when I save and close it, it will send it back to Lightroom for me. So then when I come back to Lightroom and look at my grid, I'll now see another version of that photo as soon as it saves it. Where'd it go? Where'd it go? What were we working on? The covered bridge. There we go. So now we have another version of that photo. And when I enlarge it, I'll see that there are no rocks down there as compared to the photo beside it, which has rocks. Pretty amazing, huh? It's like I cleared off some rocks back there before too. So, that's the main thing I use in Lightroom, because there's a lot of times where I just can't use the cloning tool here, that's what I'll use Photoshop for. A lot of things in Lightroom that you just can't clone out. Just doesn't do the heavy lifting that Photoshop will do. Okay. Okay. So the next tool in the Develop toolbox is the red eye reduction tool. I don't have any photos to show you how it works because I've never shot a picture with red eye. That's not a joke. Red eye occurs when you have a flash right on top of the camera, and the light coming from the flash is at the same parallax as your lens, and the light goes in and bounces off the red blood vessels on the back of your eye and comes back out reflected red light. So I don't have any cameras that have a pop-up flash. Pop-up flash is where you get it the most, and if I use an external flash, I don't mount it on the hot shoe. I have it in my hand or mount it someplace else, so my light's at a different angle. But the red eye tool, you just, actually I had a dog. Did I have a dog in this? I had a dog with some red eye. Did it work on this? I don't know if I had it in here or not. No. Essentially with the red eye reduction tool, you just click on it and you draw a circle around where the red eye is, and it'll go in and make it look real, as opposed to just changing out the red eye. So don't shoot with red eye, you don't have to worry about it. That's my theory. Okay, go back to my water. Which one did you straighten up that one? So the next tool is the one that I use the most, called the graduated filter. And the graduated filter lets you mask off part of your image and make adjustments just to that area that you have masked off. So in a picture like this, I might want my sky to be darker, but I don't want the water to be darker. So if I were just to do a traditional edit and darken the whole photo, then if I darken the photo to get the sky the way I want, then my water is too dark. Or if I lighten the water, and then my sky is too light. So I can do a graduated filter. Click on that, and then I click in the picture, hold down my mouse, and drag whatever direction I want, either down or up or sideways or whatever way. So this time I'm coming from the top, so I'm dragging down. The farther the lines are apart, the softer the effect. And I'll show you what I mean by that here in a moment. So I'm going to just change my exposure radically so you can see that. So if I move my lines closer together, that becomes a very hard line. If I move them farther apart, that becomes a very gradual change. So what tends to happen is from the line where you started and from where you started, the effect is going to be 100%. From this line to this line is about 100 down to 25%. From here to this line is 25 to 0, and nothing happens below that. So in a picture like this, I can then click on that spot and move my line. So I want that to be about right on the horizon line. Let me reset my exposure so I don't have that ugly thing happening. And now I can make a gradual change to that sky, but not change the foreground. So if I want to darken the highlights, I want to lower the exposure maybe a little bit, brighten the white so my clouds don't get too bad. I might increase my dehaze here. I might pump up the saturation in the sky. It's starting to look goofy already, so I will do the dehaze. Punch the clarity in the sky. And those shadows a little bit more.
So you said 100%, then 25%, and what's the bottom third?
So from the first line above it is 100%. From the first line to the second line, it goes from 100 down to 25%. Mm-hmm. From the middle line to the bottom is 25 to 0. Okay. So now my sky is looking much better. And I can make, I have all these things that I can make adjustments to. I can change the noise or all these things. I can change the color temperature. So if I wanted that sky to be a little bit bluer, I can change the color temperature there. Just change the blue in the sky, kind of thing. So a lot of changes I can make just for that graduated filter. So when I'm done, I can click down here, done, or hit enter. Now you'll notice that the tops of the trees turn dark on me too. So I'm going to hit so that's before, that's after. So I don't want the tops of the trees to be dark because that looks kind of weird. So if I go back to my graduated filter, I can click on that dot, that lets me edit that one again. And when I move my cursor over the dot, you can see the mask. It becomes a red. You can see what mask is being masked and what is being affected. The other great shortcut on the keyboard is O. O shows you the mask. So you tap O, you can see the mask. Or you can come down here and click on Show Selected Mask Overlay. So O stands for overlay. So if you click down here, it does the same thing, but it's much, much faster to just tap the O on the keyboard to see your mask. Why do we want to see our mask? Because as we can see, it's masking the tops of the trees all across here and a lot here. And I don't want those to be masked because I don't want to edit those. So I'm going to click on the brush while I have that turned on. And I'm going to come down to erase. And I'm going to make sure auto mask is turned on. Auto mask will allow me to, since I'm erasing, only see it will mask or turn on the mask or turn off the mask only on the tones where I start to click. So as I'm clicking and dragging my mouse, you can see I'm erasing the mask from those trees. But now as I get up into the sky, it's only grabbing the colors that I started on the dark. So it's not affecting the sky at all. This is pure magic. I should hear oohs and ahs.
Yeah, I'm just about to ooh and ah.
This is pure magic. So I can, and I'm doing this pretty quick, but I can just undo the mask all the way across this. And now when I turn off my mask by tapping the O key, I can see that my trees aren't dark anymore. Absolutely amazing.
So you have to have auto mask.
So what auto mask lets you, you can add to the, if you didn't erase, you can add to the mask too. Auto mask, yes, it only will select whatever tones you are starting on. So if you're starting on a dark tone, it won't affect a light tone.
And to see it, you have to either press O or.
Yes, or show select mask
Is
overlay down
there
here
a
in the bottom.
backslash somewhere around there?
Well,
Is there, like, to see the red?
no.
Is that in
Backslash.
Photoshop?
Don't know. Backslash will show you the before and the after.
Okay.
So I'm a hero already just by putting that mask on the top, right?
Because I was wondering about that, like if I have a person on the beach and I want to use a graduated filter, but it brings it down over them.
Exactly.
So this is the way to put that out.
Right.
Okay.
So you can have as many graduated filters as you want. You know, if this corner is a little too light or too dark, let's say it's too, you know, I'm going to do a pretty graduated one and open up the exposure there. You know, I can brighten that up a little bit, or actually I would probably just go into the shadows, brighten the shadows. Add some clarity there too. So I can do multiple graduated filters on a photo, and I'll show you some more photos after our break and how I'm working with this. Let me show you how things are looking right now. I'm going to erase that one for hoots and hollers and create a new one and show you another way to mask off. This is brand new, and if you have anything but the latest version of Lightroom, this isn't not in there. So I'm going to show my mask again. They've added in the latest version a range mask, which you can change the range based on color or on luminance. So if I go to luminance, and it will erase. Well, let's come this way. So we want only want to mask off the light parts of the photo. So I can change my luminance. Now it's only affecting the light parts. You see the trees are going away from the mask. Or if I wanted to just do the middle tones, I could do the middle tone. Or I could just do this effect. So if you have this photo isn't the best one to show this on. Which one would be better? So if I have a mask on here, let's see if I have any already. Okay. So if I have a mask on here, I got it crooked, so I can straighten it out by doing that. If I want to only mask based on luminance, I can do that and come to, let's only do the light part. So we're gonna, so see how and now I can turn off my mask and I can make adjustments to the light part if I want. So I can darken them, or you see it's not affecting the other parts of the image. The other way you can change it is by color. And so let me reset here before I do that. So I have my mask. So say I only wanted in the sky to affect the blue. So I can come down to range mask, come to, oops, I want color, grab the color picker, come up to blue and draw a box. It works better with a box than just a single point. And it's now going to, as I turn on my mask, only highlight the blue part within that graduated filter. So you can see there's some there. So if I turn off my mask, you can see now that I can change my exposure, and it's only going to affect or change the color temperature.
So
it's only going to affect the blue parts of the photo. This is really cool. This is really.
So just run those steps by again?
Yes, but I'm going to give you a warning. Anytime you're doing a reflection like this, if you change something in the sky radically, you better change that reflection too, or somebody's going to laugh at you. So a lot of people overlook that. Okay, so let me delete it. Proof. Windows. So I grab my graduated filter, drag it down. And the reason I'm using a graduated filter is I don't want to affect this part of the picture. I only want to affect the upper part. Come down to range mask, color. Grab the color picker, and if you're using version 6, it ain't in there. And then select whatever an area of color that I want. And now we can see that only that area is selected. It's so cool. So cool.
Now, I notice you always start your graduated mask off the, not at the top, not from the top. You're kind of starting it.
Well, I started inside of the picture some. Yeah. Yes, because it's going to be, part of the picture.
Mm-hmm.
So, you can move it later or however you want. So like say this one, I might make it even more gradual, and then open up the shadows, bring the shadows up a little bit, bring the black down, brighten up the shadows.
And the little X next to color, does that mean? There's a little box with an X in it. Does that mean delete it or? There on in your panel. Yeah, there.
Oh, that's just color picker. So you can change the color of your mask. That changes the color of your mask.
Oh.
So if you don't want a red mask, sometimes I go for a blue mask because I have little color problems with reds. So it's easier to see. It depends on the picture. This one, a blue mask would be hard to see. The red mask. Okay. The next one is a fairly new thing they've added to. It's an oval, and I haven't found a great use for it other than maybe a face like this. So it will create an oval mask, and you can adjust the size of the oval. But I can do this using other things too. So if I change the exposure, definitely just to overshow you how. So it will change everything outside of the mask, or you can invert it and do what's inside of the mask. So if you wanted to brighten her face or something, you could do that with inside of that. And again, it also has the ability to do the color or luminance range mask, which now that they've added that to this, it makes this tool a little bit more useful.
Where was that again?
This is the oval one, the oval tool right beside the
Oh,
graduated
is
filter.
that what that is? Okay.
Okay. Then beside that is the brush tool. And so it is basically the same thing as, let me reset this a little more. It is basically the same thing as the oval, but you can just brush whatever area you want to mask off. So I'm going to turn on my mask by tapping O. And now when I drag and move my mouse around, I'm selecting whatever area I want. Now that's not a very good mask, because if I do anything, it's going to be pretty bad. So, but again, I have the ability to do this range mask. So if I want to, so I can overspray it. Spray is not quite the right word, but now when I do the luminance range, you can see the dark areas are not being masked and the lighter areas are. So if I now turn off my mask and I make changes, and I'm going to overdo it for demonstration, I'm only doing it to the areas that are darker. So I'm not changing skin tone or the darker areas. I selected just the lighter areas. So let me erase that.
Sorry.
So yeah.
Can the brush like use that auto mask? So
Yes,
you don't
just
get
get into that. Yep.
Okay.
So you can also turn on the auto mask. So say, let me zoom in here on her hand a little bit. Say I wanted to bring down the bright spot on her hand. So if I have the auto mask turned on and I start clicking right inside of her hand, let me turn on my mask. It's going to find the tonal values of whatever I started on, and you see it's just selecting, it's not masking the dark areas, even though I'm going over them. And I went too much, but so I'm doing the auto mask. So the difference is, let me undo that. Undo it all the way. If I turn off that auto mask, you can see when I come here, it's going to mask outside, like, masking out there. If I undo that and turn on the auto mask, when I come there and do it doesn't mask off the edges. Yes. So then I can turn off my mask and I can go up to my highlights and drop them down. Here's some bad looking skin. Molly would not be happy if she saw me doing that. So you can work on that, just that one selected area. So these tools let you work on, rather than global on the whole photo, just a local area of the photo, just change local area, which is a very powerful and fun thing to do. And I'm going to show you, I'm going to take a break here in about 30 seconds. And then when we come back, I'll show you how I tone photos and why and when to put all these tools together and how it works. Okay? Any questions at this point? So the question is, she has folders containing photos. Should she convert them to collections? No, they're fine in their folders. As long as Lightroom knows where they are, it doesn't matter. It just doesn't matter.
But if I wanted to do that, because I was thinking the exact same thing, how do I do that and then not lose, if the folder, when I delete them out of the folder, they're gone?
Well, you don't want to delete them out of the folder, because that deletes.
Okay.
So it's essentially what I would do is create. I would use the folders area here to select. Let's say, let me come down here. Say I've got. Let me find one that's not too big so I can do it quickly. Critique night. This means there's photos I should have deleted because they're somebody else's. If you're in folders and you click on on a folder, it's going to show all the photos from that folder that have been imported into Lightroom, right?
Right.
So you could just select all of them and give them a keyword of whatever your folder name is.
Okay.
So this one add comma critique night to the photo, to each photo, and then you could either do a smart collection that says critique night and it automatically puts them into that smart collection, or you can manually do it.
Okay.
So then if I have Dartmouth as a folder, they probably already do have the keyword Dartmouth, but so I could when I'm not in folders, if I'm looking at all of my photos, if I do a search now on Dartmouth, liar.
That might have been keynoting.
No, it showed the head keywords. Why is it lying to me?
You spelled Dartmouth wrong?
Yeah, probably.
So they can be, you can click and drag them into a collection. They'll stay in the folder, but then they'll also be in the collection.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All righty.
But keep that folders closed because you don't want to drag things around over there. Just keep that thing closed.
Yeah, I won't use it anymore, but if I want to try to get into the 21st century.
So I wouldn't take like the critique. Now I've got my smart collection. So all the critique pictures, just put them into the master folder and get rid of critique folder.
You don't need, so the question is, do you need to get rid of these folders you've created? No, that's just a lot of work. You don't need to bother doing that.
Okay, just going forward.
Just going forward, it's okay to put them all in there. If I shoot more pictures at Dartmouth, I probably am going to bother to put them into the Dartmouth folder just because I've done it that way. I don't know why. I don't need to. The only beauty is if I do want to look at them through the folders area, I can do that and they're there. So no, you don't need to go back and undo any organization you've done. You just want to make sure that you have keyworded based at least on that organization that you've already done.
Okay.
It doesn't hurt to be in the folders area and looking at your photos that way. It doesn't hurt anything as long as you aren't deleting things from the, if you delete it from the folder, it's gone.
Got it.
Can I just ask one more collection? Because I've seen quick collection. This quick collection, this a collection, and then smart collection is what goes up from here. Quick collection is what I've dragged things into.
Right.
Okay.
Okay. So let's tone some photos. Did Danielle join us yet? Maybe she's just muted and doesn't want to talk to us. That's okay. Okay. So let's grab a photo and see how we tone it. So let's start with this nice horsey scene. Now, one thing that looks too brilliant for me. Okay. One thing you'll learn about me is I love photographing sunrise. It's just the greatest light ever. It's just the most beautiful light. But I hate getting out of bed. So anytime you see a photo of mine that I shot at sunrise, I'm going to let you know because I'm taking credit for getting my lazy butt out of bed. So this is a sunrise photo. So the light is just cleaner. The dust from the day has settled down. The light is cleaner, misty. It's beautiful. So a photo like this, when I'm looking at a photo, I'm thinking, okay, what is it that I saw when I was there? What is it that I want to say to people in my photo? And then how do I bring that out using the adjustments in Lightroom? So for me, the important thing in this photo is I love the shape of the horses. I like the color, or I like the flow of the light. I know it was sunrise, so I know it was a much warmer light than I'm seeing now. So I want the scene to be warmer. I want the colors to pop on the foliage. There's a little color back here. This tree doesn't have any, but this one has some color. The grass has some color. And I don't like the way this is so bright that it's distracting the viewer from what's in the scene. And I hate having this little chunk of tree hanging out up there. So first thing I usually do is crop. And so in this one, I would, if I don't like that tree, I have to think, how am I going to get rid of it? I have one of two choices. I can clone it out or I can crop it out. So I think I can, if I come down from the top, I'm not losing anything up above there. So I've lost enough that now I can crop it. I can clone that little chunk out really easy in Lightroom. Do I want to clone up from the bottom a little bit, or crop up from the bottom? Not clone up, crop up from the bottom a little bit. Yeah, let's do that too. Now if I double click in there, that will activate what I did. So I have that, so I'm going to get rid of that at some point. Maybe I'll just do that right away so I don't have to look at it. So if I grab my spot removal tool, make it a little bit bigger, drag up there, hit enter return, that's gone. Clean. Now I'm going to start in this photo just by changing the color temperature a little bit because it was a morning shot. Remember, I got my lazy butt out of bed, so I'm going to make it a little yellower than what I'm seeing there because the white balance I had set in my camera changed it to plain daylight. Now it's become a little more yellow. I want to be careful, not doing it too much. I always right away go to my blacks, make my blacks black. And so I had clicked on if you click on the histogram on the arrow on the top, it will automatically show you when you're where you're clipping or where you're losing detail. So you can see as I lower my blacks, I'm losing detail in the tree and the horses down here. I don't care. I like that look. I'm going to turn that off so I don't have to be bothered by it. So I like having, so you can see on my histogram, it's climbing up that left wall. Now, supposedly that's a sin, but I like the sin. I love the sin on the left. I don't want to sin on the right. So now I tend to try to, the main part of my picture, I want to get it looking the way I want. Then I come in and do the local adjustments. So I'm going to punch the clarity a little bit, make it pop a little bit. I'm going to increase the vibrance a little bit. I'm going to increase my saturation a little bit. Now, I don't know how that looks online. I have another laptop running, seeing what you guys are seeing, and that one, it looks way oversaturated compared to what my calibrated monitor looks like. So I'm going for my monitor, not your monitor. So it could look vastly different over there. Okay, so now it's looking a little bit too yellow, so I'm going to back that back down. So pretty much that's the way I like that looking. I'm going to jump in and see what my dehaze does at this point, if anything. It's just making things a lot blacker up on top. Sometimes it looks really cool to go the other way with dehaze too. Do some weird effects. Sometimes I'll do weird effects to photos, but I always want to make sure I do it so much that everybody knows it's absolutely I meant to do an effect, not did he just kind of screw up, or what's he trying to pull something over? No, he's making it wacky. But so just a little touch on the dehaze, sharpening that up back there. And you see my sky is still way too bright, but we'll figure that out a bit. I know there's some oranges up in here, and they're not coming out very much. So I'm going to go into my HSL, see what happens with my orange saturation. And maybe my orange luminance, make them a little bit darker. See how the oranges are changing on me? So if I make the orange just a little bit darker, it'll show up more, but saturate it more. Okay, so now the main part of the photo is still looking pretty yellow to me. So maybe I'll back off my saturation a bit. And my color balance. Okay, now I got to fix this sky. The sky is going to drive me nuts. So I'll grab my graduated filter. I'm dragging it across from the corner because I want it angled. And I'm going to turn on my mask. Now this is one where I'm going to use that luminance because I only want to mask off the bright part. So if I drag this to the right, I'm only going to see the brighter part of the image. Beautiful. That does a beautiful job on that. Okay, turn off showing my mask. It's still there. Now I'm going to do a couple things. I'm going to change the color temperature to bring in some blue into that sky. And I'm going to drop my exposure. Now, I can go crazy and do it like that, but that doesn't look real, So just make it a little bit. Now you can see the right side of I'm going to drop this down a little bit. The right corner is much darker than the left corner. What can I do about that? One of two things. I'm going to get this left corner the way I want it first, then I'll come back and worry about the right corner. If you have an area that's white and you're trying to make it not white, it'll turn gray on you and look really kind of icky. So you really have to watch for that. So let's just see what happens to bring the highlights down a little bit. And we're starting to, we're a little too much. So I'm going to just back it up a little bit because I want it to look real. Okay. So right now I'm working on the left side. Okay. So I'm okay with that, but I'm too dark on this side. So I'm going to do the same thing again. I'm going to grab another graduated filter and bring it across from the right side. And I'm going to do that same mask range, tap my O, luminance, just do the bright parts, so I'm not affecting the trees at all. Just the sky there, turn off my mask overlay. And now I'm going to brighten that one back up, so my exposure kind of matches all the way across. So I'm just doing this by eye. Okay, so now I'm pretty close to being the same here as over here. I like that. Add a little sharpening, take it up to 50 range. I'm done. So this is what it looked like before. Oh, that's awful earlier. Bad. Actually, there's a lot of detail showing here. I don't know that I want that. I might even bring another mask across here and just darken the shadows there, just to give it a little more pop. So your eye comes right. Make sure your eye comes up to the horses and not looking at that. That looks like a natural shadow. So where were we before? Okay. So we went from that to that. That's it. That's all it takes. So this is one where, again, this is sunrise. I'm taking credit for it. No, it was a real warm light, but I had my color balance on my camera set to auto, so it cleaned it up. It made it feel like daylight. So this should have been a really, really cool or a really warm light coming across there. So I know what it could look like. So I'm gonna just really make that feel real warm from the morning. Pump up the clarity, put more detail in that mist. Pump up my vibrance. Pump up my saturation a little bit. Make my blacks black, and that image really pops now. Anything else I need to do that? Not much. So I go from that to that in what, 15 seconds, 20 seconds? Oh, ketchup. So this is a macro shot of a rusty truck. Looks just pretty flat, doesn't it? So let's get on the clarity a little bit. Let's make those blacks black. Pump up that vibrance. Pump up that saturation. This one I can oversaturate a little bit. And if I increase my color temperature, I can come there. Maybe I'll go a little higher on the clarity. So things are looking like they're really, really jumping. So this is what the camera saw. That's what I saw. Again, how long did I work on that? And I'm doing this a little faster demonstration, but on a shot like that, that's about how quick I would go. You know, as I say, every photo needs to have, you know, photos are going to come out looking like that if you're shooting raw. And you know, just the way the cameras are built and to get the most dynamic range and the most colors in them, that's the way they're going to start. And you know, that wasn't reality. That was reality. So I want my pictures to pop like that. Reset this one. So a scene like this, I'm looking at it, and the trees out here feel a little bit too bright. The sky is a little bright. I like what's happening here, but I want to see some detail on the rocks down here. So how do I do all that mess? Holy cow. Well, first I'm going to get these trees to be right in here. So I'm just going to lower the highlights a little bit, see what happens there. Okay, that feels better in there. Now my sky is still a little too bright. Let me just do some clarity first and see what happens. And some vibrance. And a little more saturation. If I overdid it. Okay, so let's see what we can do to this sky here. I'm bringing that graduated filter down from the top again. I want to just work on the blues. So I'm going to use that range mask color. Click on my color and come across. So if I clicked on just one blue, it would only work on that shade of blue. But see, as I make this box, I have a light blue here in the lower right corner and a darker blue up there. So it's going to grab multiple blues across the photo and clean them up. Okay, so I'll turn my mask back off. So let's see what we want to do here. We lower the exposure. Maybe we ought to lower the darken the shadows. Make it a little bluer, maybe. What's Behave's going to do for our sky? And see, that's too much for me. That's too much. So I'll just back off a little bit. Okay. I increase my blacks overall. No, not yet. This looks pretty sharp, but I know there's some detail down in here that I want to get. So I'm just going to use my brush and just oops. What did I do? What did I do? I think Lightroom just jumped out and just crapped on me. That doesn't happen very often.
So this is all stuff we used to have to do in Photoshop. Now we can do in
Yes, there's anything that you could do in Photoshop. No, everything that you can do in Lightroom you can do in Photoshop. It takes longer, and it doesn't do it better. So. So, you know, like I say, I'll catalog did it open. Opened the wrong catalog. Opened the test one that I created for an earlier class. Did you notice how I didn't panic when it said there were 0 photos in my catalog? Sometimes I panic when that happens. Okay, let's go back to that one. Where'd they go? Photos didn't go anywhere, it's just the previews. That's something. Okay. Okay, so I'm going to grab my brush. I'm going to, oh, sorry, grab the wrong one. Grab the brush. I'm going to turn on my mask overlay. View. Select this area. So I have the, as you can see, I have the auto mask turned on. Let me just grab a bigger one to happen faster. Bless you.
Thank you.
Grab that edge. Okay, so now I'll turn off my viewing my mask overlay. So now I'll go into shadows and open up the shadows a little bit here. Just mess with me a little bit of detail there. So again, I'm just doing that locally in this part of the picture. I don't want detail much over here, but I just want to show it's a nice rock and up there. That's it. That's all I do to that photo. And so it went from that to that. That's what I saw. This isn't what I saw or where I was. That's what the camera saw. That's what I saw.
The sunflower. It's pretty well what you did to just make the sky blue because the sunflowers have
Right.
same and use a graduated filter there, because it's actually white sky behind you.
Exactly. So this photo, rather than going through the whole steps, I'll just show you how it ended up. But and I can show you the mask. So when I was out shooting, it was an overcast day, and I was in this field of sunflowers, and I just wasn't getting much because the light just wasn't good. So I went back to the car and got a little handheld flash and a small umbrella. Put the flash off to the side so it has some nice side light coming across, so you can see it lit up just this flower, and one in the back, and it's starting to fall off back there. And then I underexposed the overall scene, so the ones back here. So all of this is really quite underexposed, but it makes the other ones pop out. So then when I jumped into Lightroom, you can see how it feel how it pops. So that's the lens correction going at it. So we can look at all the different things that I did here. So the lens profiles, I turned that on and off several times to see it. Just vignetting. So if we go back through the steps. So, I might be. Yeah, I've already done most. I don't have the full. But essentially what I did was just mask off the area behind it, and then change the color balance back there to make that blue. So quickly, if I use that and I make sure I have my auto mask turned on, show my overlay, make my brush a little smaller. So now I can just come in here, do this. This one took a little bit longer than I'll do now, but you can see I can almost even go right over it. I'm covering up a little bit. I'm being a little bit.
That's okay.
Yeah.
Just
So now it's coming back up and changing that color balance. Brings in a blue sky.
You don't have to go down to hue saturation.
Well, I can increase the blue sky by going down to hue. Once I get out of the brush, it's come down here, and now I can work on the individual blue if I want and make it whatever. I can change the hue of the blue, make it whatever I want, or the saturation of the blue.
Okay.
or the luminance of the blue. I can make it a brighter or darker blue.
And then you did the same to the green and the yellow to make the face pop.
Yeah, I probably just use a general overall for the whole photo rather than just the mask area. So I just punch the clarity and the mask. There we go. Clarity, punch the vibrance, saturation a little bit.
I see.
Okay, now I've overdone the blue, so I have to go back down to the blue and back that off. Saturation. That material. It's amazing what happens to photos. And so a picture like this, so she's riding on a four-wheeler that's red, and the sun bouncing off the pole and making the bottom of her face red, kind of orange. Like, oh boy, what do you do with that? It's like, I'm in trouble. So if if I start off with my clarity and my vibrance, now here if I touch saturation at all, that color is going to really just jump out. So so I can just go into the HSL and let's go to saturation. Grab the saturation gomer, put that on her face. Now if I desaturate that, I'm just going to take take the color right back out of her face. You know, a lot of folks are pretty happy if you bother to zoom in and their teeth might be not perfectly white or have a bit of yellow. So if you grab your adjustment brush, make sure your auto mask is turned on, make it just a little bit smaller. Let me show you the mask. So we're just going to select her teeth. So for those of you who do portraits, almost everybody needs a little dental work and a little eyeball work. Brighten the whites in their eyes and to brighten their teeth. So turn off the mask viewing. And now if I just simply desaturate that, it's not going to look like, some people will punch white in and, they look like, oh, what the hell is that? Just desaturate it. Leave, they don't have to be perfectly white, but, just taking the yellow out, and you come back to fit now. So, it looks pretty nice there. Pretty nice. Let me come back to him. Oh, wait, I want to show you one other thing. So, this is one where the post-crop vignette is just was a great thing. Go all the way down here. So now if I come down, yeah, it just darkens that background. This one up a little bit more than my normal. But if I then wanted to crop it, that vignette's now starting to hit in the face because I went too much. So let me go all the way back down, and I'll back that off a little bit. But it just darkens those corners enough to make what you really want people to look at really pop out. So we talked about her hand there, and like her face is a little bit too dark. So we can get an adjustment brush. Let's see the mask. Come in here and just mask off her face a little bit. And usually, I'm going to turn off the mask viewing. Usually you don't want to crank up the exposure because that will brighten the blacks also. So in this case, she's in the shadows, so I'm just going to open the shadows up a little bit. Maybe a touch on the exposure back there, but not so much that it's super obvious. And when I do that, a lot of times the contrast drops down. So if I punch the contrast up a little bit more, punch my exposure up a little bit more again. Now she's looking pretty good.
What are your twitches?
Now she's looking pretty good. So we went from that to that. There's my guy in my tuk-tuk. There's my tuk-tuk guy. So this is down in Guatemala, and this guy was driving the tuk-tuk, one of those little three-wheeled taxis. Really nice guy, and we got talking to him and found out he had cancer and he's probably dead by now. He only had about 6 months ago, but he had this great smile. Like, oh man, come on, dude, I'm breaking their hearts here. So, so you know, again, what is it in this photo that I want to bring out? What is it that's distracting me? So, you know, I want to make sure I have some context, some environment over here, but it's still a little too bright. His shirt's too bright. His face is too dark. The roof is a little bright. So I need to fix all of those things. So first, I'm going to start with just the general things and clean up everything first. Then go back into individual things. So add some clarity. I don't know why I start with that, but I like to. A little vibrance. I've got skin, got a little vibrance. Thank you. I have skin, so I'm not going to touch that saturation, or he's going to get orange and palette real quick. Do that. Stay away from saturations for people. Increase my blacks, you know, it's making him look too dark. But then I'm going to open up the shadows a little bit. So I want to see a little bit. See how the back seat of the tuk-tuk is now I'm getting some detail back there. That's kind of nice. But when I do that, I'm out here, it's getting too yucky. So that's okay. I'll fix that later. You know, so I'll fix that right now. Let's just fix that. When I open up the shadows, his face also got lighter. But I'll just bring a graduated filter across here, and I can just drop my exposure back down, and clarity back down. Now the bottom of it is still bad, so I'll okay that one, but I'm going to bring in another one diagonal from the other direction to take care of that part. It's going to affect up in here a little bit too, but probably won't make much difference. So if I just lower that, I could have done that with a brush as well as the graduated filter. Either way would do that. But let's grab a brush and let's just make its face pop a little bit more here. So turn on my orange overlay. Turn off my viewing of the overlay. Now let's see what happens when we open the shadows there. That feels like it. Well, it does have a behave working. And I was going to say, I felt like having behave working. So open the shadow. Just a touch of exposure. There he's brighter. Now he's got some dark skin, so I don't want to make him too bright. So let's just bring him down to about a quarter of the stop. That's looking pretty nice. Okay. Look at that. Now I'm going to zoom in and see what we really have going on. Okay, so he's got some dental work we can do. So on my overlay. Overlay. Keep the saturation there. Beautiful. Let's make his eyes pop a little bit. Okay. So I just turn on that overlay so I can see what I'm doing. Now I can come over here and do this other one at the same time. No, it does that automatically. I don't need to hit anything else. That's a pretty good look. Like, yeah, maybe I can leave red. No, to turn off the overlay. So see what happens if we brighten the highlights here. There. We'll back that off. Actually, they're looking a little yellow, so I could back that saturation off of that too and make it feel like they're brighter without actually making them brighter. I'm going to go smaller so I can see what he really looks like. Yeah, that's making his eyes pop. Okay, good, good. We're getting there. So this one needs a little more work because it was pretty rough light. But let's do a brush, make sure we have our auto mask on. And I'm going to select his shoulder. Select his shoulder, the highlights. Hide my viewing of the mask. Now I'm going to come to my highlights and lower them. Okay, got to be a little careful there. Don't make too much. Okay. So that one I did quite a bit too. That's where we were. That's where we ended up. Now, I'm also too bright down here. I would darken down the ground here, and I might hide some of this back here and maybe the pants too. But you know, most people looking at this photo aren't gonna say, Lauren worked on that for 10 minutes to make that pop. But by however long I did work on it, it wasn't 10 minutes. It looks so much better than what came out of the camera.
Oh, yeah.
So that's why I tell an awful lot of people, they think, well, if I have to work on the photo, it means I didn't do something right when I shot it. No, just the camera can't cover everything. Those of you who've been to Vermont with me might recognize this barn, which is a cool old building that is just ugly as hell. And this was during my winter workshop there, and I looked at that and said, wow, that's a great black and white. Everybody's like, what are you talking about? That sky is all, what are you going to do with that? Well, come watch. So let me make sure I'm reset all the way back. Yeah, that's what it looked like originally. So this one, I know I have good tones down in here that I want to bring out, and I know there's some highlights, there's some in the sky that I can work over. So first, I'm going to start with the barn itself, and I'm going to go to black and white. And now it's looking even worse. Like, oh boy! But if I open up the shadows, and if I come down here in the colors, and work on that orange, because I know that brick is kind of orange, and then get my clarity. And some people think that if you have to go to 100 all the way on it, it's too much. A lot of the sliders you can do that. A lot of the things you can go all the way, and it's not a horrible thing. So don't be afraid to try cranking it all the way. If you don't like it, then back it off. Okay, so now the building's not bad. Let me see what happens when I dehaze this whole thing here. It's getting a little dark, so let me punch up the exposure in the building just a touch. And maybe I'm going to open the shadows. Maybe I want the highlights to come out more. What is it that I want here? Shadows darker. There we go. Okay, so now I have the building the way I want it, but my sky looks like crap. So let's grab the graduated filter. What I want to grab. Actually, I'm going to use the adjustment brush. I'm going to get a pretty big brush and turn on my mask overlay and select this whole big area really quick. So this is another one where I can use that new masking, range, luminance. See how I overlapped down here? But if I bring down, use this luminance to only come down, it's gonna undo that section. Now I'm only masking off that sky. Okay, turn this off. See what we can do to it. Let's turn that off, thank you. I'll punch the clarity here. Let's change our white balance. Come down to the blue. Since we have some blue in there, can we make it more dramatic? I like my drama. That's dramatic. Okay, come on, computer, catch up to me. Maybe I put some contrast. Oh, we're getting some pretty cool detail. Now this one actually I would crop. I think crop it that. Let's come down from the top a little bit. Right down the top. So I went from that, that. Hey, there it goes. Isn't that cool?
We use that YY a lot, so you can see them side by side.
Mhm.
Where you started and where you're at now.
Yeah.
That's very dramatic often.
Yeah. Yeah, that works too. Before and after.
Just real quick, if you're doing people and you had to erase the hair or do you believe in doing that? Or
So the question is, if I'm working on a person that had flyaway hair, you clean that up. First of all, I do that in Photoshop, not Lightroom, because it'll work a lot better. It depends on what the photo is for. I worked for a time for a hospital in the marketing department, and I'd photograph people, and they'd want me to take off moles. I said no, unless the person that I photographed says take that off. I'm not taking that off because that's part of them. And I don't think moles are a bad thing. So if the person wants it gone, I'll clean it up. Same way with wrinkles. I don't think wrinkles are a bad thing. So why would I just immediately go in and erase somebody's wrinkles? They were that way with flyaway hair. They thought if some hair was sticking out, that was just a horrible thing. You need to clean all that up. So it depends on what you're doing and why. And so I don't change people at all unless they ask me to. I've had some people with just, it depends on the lighting too. If they have, especially with wrinkles, if they have pretty wrinkly skin, I will use a real soft light for them to help them out so I don't exaggerate it. But I'm not going to go in and make major changes and make them look like they're, you see these photos of people who are 70 years old who look like they're 30. Like, well, that just looks horrid. So, yeah, so it just depends. So isn't that amazing? So there are times when the pictures you're shooting have such a strong lighting situation that your camera can't record both the highlights and the shadows, and you end up having to pick, do I want to have this picture too bright or too dark? So there's a way called HDR, high dynamic range, to take multiple pictures of a scene and have and put them together in the software. So you'll notice this range of pictures here. Oh, actually that one. So so when I'm doing a range, I tend to take a picture of my hand to start with, and then I take a hand and I shoot a picture at the proper exposure. I shoot one at one stop underexposed, one at one stop overexposed. So then I will take another picture of my hand, so then I know which ones I used as an HDR range. I had another set of photos I thought in here that were even better than that one. Let me try this folder. Let's see if I had it in here. Where did I put that? Here we go. So a real typical example is a room. So the proper, the proper meter reading would be about that. That would be about what your camera shoots. So I don't have any detail in the shadows down here, and I don't have any detail in the windows. The windows are just all blown out. So if I take a picture and make the windows look right, then I don't see anything. If I take a picture that makes the floor look good, then I'm totally blowing out the windows. So if I take those photos and select in the grid is easiest, select those 5 pictures. So these I did a full stop range using 5 different pictures. I go up under photo, photo merge, HDR. And for time's sake, I'll just show you how this starts. I'm not going to let that run. But what happens is it will put all those photos together and make it look like that. So I have detail in the shadows, I have detail in the highlights, and my color overall is looking great. So a lot of times your camera just can't handle the range of exposures there. So shoot multiple pictures. It's best if you use a tripod and you don't change. It's best to change the shutter speed, not the aperture, because when you change the aperture, you change the depth of field, which will change the look of the photo, and it makes it really hard to merge. So in this one, you can see that I shot it at a 13th of a second at f9. This one's 1.3 seconds. This one's half a second, 0.6 seconds actually. Actually, that one's not in the ring. That one jumps, so it must not be in the set. A 1/6 of a second, 1/13 of a second. So a full stop. So I did 5 pictures of a full stop apart to get the full range. And how do I determine how far to do it? I'm just looking at the picture on the back of my camera, and if I'm still seeing detail, if I'm still seeing it blowing out in those windows, I just do another shot darker, and I go the other way, make them lighter, 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 and then just put them all together, and you end up with something really nice like that. And it works on exterior photos too. It doesn't have to just be interior. Yeah. So here's a set I did in Acadia, where the sky. I like the sky, but I wanted some detail in the mountains too. So this one I only have 2 pictures. Let's go ahead and put this one together. We'll go up under photo, photo merge, HDR. And take a minute or 2 to create the preview. So again, you see I take a picture of my hand. That way I know which 3 I did as a set. So it makes it really easy for me when I'm making my HDR. Okay, this is taking too long. These are really big files. So.
Lauren.
Yes.
So, do you usually do the deghost amount to high? Do you usually choose that?
Okay. So deghosting amount. Deghost means if there's something moving in the picture, it's going to look like a ghost. So on a shot like this, and this is just taking way too long. On a shot like this, the wind's blowing a little bit, so the water is going to look different in each photo, and the clouds will look a little bit different because the clouds are going to move no matter how fast you shoot them. So deghosting will calculate that. So yes, I set it on high, so it'll deghost it. The picture of the interior, nothing moved in there, so ghosting didn't happen. So I don't have to deghost at all.
Is that on the panel? Ghosting?
Yes.
On the panel. Right?
Yes.
Panel.
Yes. So another thing is I like shooting panorama pictures. And when I'm shooting panoramas, I shoot multiple pictures and then stitch them together, but I shoot them as vertical instead of horizontals. So even though I'm shooting a wide horizontal scene, I'm going to shoot them as a vertical. And so I need to make sure, though, that I have in my verticals, I have parts of each picture, parts of the scene in at least 2 pictures. So you can see this mountain peak is in this picture on the side here. It's on the right side here. And I'm starting to get this mountain. So I make sure I have an overlap. And the more overlap you have, the better it will be. So when I bring these photos in, if I have like 6 photos in this series, I will make my adjustments, and I use this for another class, and I over adjusted it. So let me go back and straighten it out. Hello? Are you losing me?
No, I'm good, thanks.
Okay. You're whoing at somebody else?
Steve, sorry.
That's okay. So, come on, machine, catch up to me. Where's my? Sorry, my machine is. Have a 25-pound luggage weight limit.
Oh dear.
Come on, people, you don't know me. I have a 12-pound lens I was planning on taking. Seriously. So so I was telling my sister this. She says, well, they have a store on the island that's called the free store. People just take things and leave it there. And if you want me to go to the store, you take it. And then if you have something to give away, you take it to the free store. She said, we can get you clothes there. I said, okay. So I'll bring some underwear and socks and whatever pants I'm wearing. We'll go get some shirts at the free store. I'll use them for the week I'm there, and we'll take them back. Yeah, okay, that'd be great. I did. So then I just lost 30 pounds. So I thought, well, no, that's okay. So I got a photo vest, and I put all my cameras and lenses in this photo vest. So then my bag only weighed 25 pounds, but I weighed an extra 30 because I'm carrying this vest.
Yeah.
So they kind of look at me when I get on the plane. I go, I just lost 30 pounds, so you're even. But anyway, so I get there, and the first morning, you know, I love my sunrise, and it's you know, sun rises at 6 o'clock, but that's 9 o'clock my time, not a problem. So I run down and shoot these pictures, and it was just the most magnificent sunrise. And I'm down there just on this beach, and I'm looking around. There's not another building in sight, not another photo in sight. And I'm thinking, nature did this sunrise just for me. It was just, you know, I am the only one seeing this. You know, people from other angles saw it different, but this is just for me. I mean, how special is that? So I'm literally standing down there screaming, and their house is up on a hill, and they're sleeping because they're retired and they don't get up early. So a couple hours later, I run back up, and I said, that was a thank you, baby Jesus sunrise. I said, what? I said, I was standing down there screaming, thank you, baby Jesus, for the sunrise. And they were just laughing. And I was showing them pictures on the back of the camera, and they're going, that was here? I said, yeah, that was here. So this is here. So
Pay them to get up.
yeah, I said, oh, damn, if I were you guys, I'd get up at 6 o'clock, go down there for half an hour, then run back to bed. But they didn't see it that way. So this one I've oversaturated, overdone. So let me back it off. Let me make this photo look about the way it should. And one of the great things about Lightroom is, okay, good. Just ignore that. Let that. Oh, it's giving me a warning from a long time ago. So I have this series of photos, and if I want to, let me just make a radical change so it looks really different than the others. So if I want to change all of these photos, I don't have to go into each one and change them to make them all look the same. If I click on the first one, hold down my shift key, select all of them, I click on the sync button, which has now become a sync button, and it asks me which things do you want to change. I just leave them all checked, and it will synchronize, and it'll go boom, 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 and change all of them in a row like that for you. If you had just one photo that you wanted to change and make it the same as the other one, let me click off of that. I'll undo that one. Oh, maybe I won't. Let me reset that one. So if I want this second one to look like the first one, I click on it, and now if I click on the previous button, it will make it look like the last photo that I had clicked on. It's not the one sitting beside it. It's the last one that I had clicked on. It will use whatever factors are part of that. So now with those photos, I can actually, let me jump back over into Grid and go to the other folder because I have this already done. So if I select those photos, when I go up under Photo Merge, I choose Panorama, and it will do essentially the same thing as the HDR, but it will stitch them all together in one photo, so it'll look like that. That's all those other photos put together. So each individual photo, so there was what, I think I had 7 photos put together to make this. And now this is a huge file since I shot it vertical, and I can make this print as big as I want. I can make monster-sized prints with this thing because it's a big, big file. So, talking about printing, at this point, we have our photos the way we want them to look. So, what are we going to do with them? So, if we're going to print them, we come to our print module, and then click up here on the right on print. And we have a lot of options. So first you need to set up your paper size, whatever size paper you're using. So now we're talking only about printing to a printer hooked up to your computer, not if you're going to send it out to a lab. This is for printing. So you select your printer, you select your size, whatever size you're using, and you okay that. So actually, let me make this letter, US letter, it's by 8.5 by 11. Okay. So back here on the right side, on the right panel on the print module, first thing is single image. So it makes, if you just, whatever picture you have selected, it will print that. You can change the size of it by changing the grid. Oops. Change a row, grid, row, X. And you can change the cell size. So if you're using an 8.5 by 11 piece of paper, but you're making a 5 by 7 print, you can just have your cell be that. So you remember back when we were cropping and talking earlier, if you're going to print a 5 by 7, you need to crop it before you get to this point. So you don't want to be cropping your pictures here. You want to crop them back in the develop module. And if you're going to have different sizes, create virtual copies so you can print them be the proper size. So if I want this to be an 8 by 10 photo, I can actually double click there, tell that to be, oops, sorry. Huh? How can I go to 8? Do I have the wrong paper size up? So anyway, I should be able to get that at 8. Why not? I'm doing something wrong. So I can do a single image. If I want to do a picture package, I can have multiple pictures on my page and make them different sizes. I can click on the corner and change the size of the print. It's not changing the actual size of the photo, it's just what it's showing, how it's printing. Or I can do a custom package where I can have multiple photos on a page. Let me close up a couple of these to get rid of them. So if I want to have one of those on there and one of those on there, and again, I can change the size. And it's showing me down here in the cell size, what size the print is. Image settings, if I'm doing a single photo, I can rotate it to print. Let's just come back to single. So, and I can zoom to fill up the image. And I can have just one photo per page and repeat that by clicking there. If I want to put a border around it, a stroke on it, I can do that. I think it looks really cool to have a magenta 17 point, no, I don't. But if you have a reason to put you might want to, if you're doing a picture that's all black, you might want to have a white border around it. If you have a white picture, you might want to put a black stroke on it or something like that. You might want to have a nice stroke on it. So again, you change the layout depending on your printer. Some printers will print with no borders. Some need to have 1/2 inch on the bottom of the printer that they just won't cover. and you can change the cell size. You have some guides so you can see what's going on, and you can hide them. So if you have rulers, you can see it, that I'm really only showing coming down to, that's 5 inches there. So you got your rulers. It'll show you your margins, your gutters. If you want to print a background color on your photo, you can do that. If you want to put an identity plate on, you can type anything in here you want. You can edit that by clicking on edit, and great pick. How about that? Let's add that. I think that should be printed on every photo. And I can change the opacity, make it dark, make it bright, change the size. That's the way it really should be. Yeah. So I can do that. I can do a watermark also, showing if I have a graphic, or if I have some text that I want to embed into the photo, I can do that here. I'll turn that off. That's disgusting. You can add page numbers, all kinds of things. You can add photo info. So if you have a file name, or if you had a caption or whatever, you can have it print that on the picture. A lot of choices here. Change your file sizes of that. Then we get to the horrid part. How do you make your printer talk to your paper, talk to your ink, talk to your machine? And this is a 2-day class in itself. But basically, if you're printing your photos in there, so let me back up a step. One of two things control the color and the look of your photos when it comes to computerized printing. Either the software tells the printer what to do, or the printer tells the software what to do. If your pictures are coming out consistently way dark, the problem is probably both of them are trying to tell each other what to do. So you need to have one of them say, shut up, listen to the other one. So you usually want to have the software telling the printer what to do. And so the software needs to know what printer you're using, what kind of ink you're using, what kind of paper you're using. And so it tells it the right thing. So if you have an Epson printer and you use Epson ink and Epson paper, it's real simple. If you're using an Epson printer and you're buying a different brand of paper, you need to have what's called a profile. And so you need to load the profile of the paper into Lightroom and tell it what to do. Again, this will make you pull more hair out than anything else I can think of, trying to get all of that right. So so when I'm printing, I need to tell what resolution. That is based on the printer. Most of them, 240 ppi, pixels per inch, will cut it. Here's another place where you can do sharpening. So how much do you want to do, high, standard, or low? Well, what does that mean? I don't really know. But it does depend on what paper type you have. Matte paper needs more sharpening than glossy, so they have that built in. So you need to select what type of paper and how much you want to do. The problem with sharpening here is you can't see what it does until it's done. Okay. So then you have your color management. So your printer right now, I have it set up so it's managed by. If I click there, it'd be managed by the printer by putting in the profile and what paper and what printer I'm using. It will let each other talk to each other. Perceptual is what it looks like. Relative is what it feels like. Perceptual is what you usually want to use there. You can do some, if you notice everything's coming out a little bit too dark or a little too flat, you can increase the brightness or the contrast here. But hopefully you've done some printing and have it all worked out in advance. Now I went over this extremely fast, but and then you can just click on printer and you'll see more details of what paper you're going to use, what kind of, all kinds of thicknesses, a lot of things. Once you have it set up, it works great. Getting it set up the first time is just a royal pain. It just hurts, but that's the way it is. So that's the way we do it. So I'm not even going to ask if there's any questions about that because I know there is. And you just need to kind of figure out what those questions are, and you can ask me later or Google them, because a lot of things can go wrong when you're printing your own pictures. But if you're not printing your own pictures, you're going to send them to somebody else. So you need to export them, because you can't just send them to, you can't just send them Lightroom. So this photo that I want to export, I clicked on export, and it's going to give me a lot of options. One of them is, where do I want to export it to? It will email it automatically for you. It will burn a CD or a DVD automatically for you if you have a burner hooked up, or you can just export it to a hard drive, which is the most frequent place to export to. If you're using another software for your photos, like Photomatix or DxO, Photolab, or some other software, you can export it straight to there also if you've told them to talk to each other. So under export location, you need to tell it where you're going to export it to. So it could be the same folder as the original photo. It could be you can choose it later. You can just drop it on your desktop, drop it in your pictures folder, whatever you want, or you can select a specific folder and you just click choose, and you go through your menu system and decide where you want that photo to go. So if this is a photo for my blog, I have a folder set up on my computer that's called blog photos. That way I know where they are when I go blogging, and I can just pull them right up. So that is what I have selected here. I can have it make a subfolder right away for me. I can have it add it back into the catalog also. I don't tend to add back to the catalog, because then I have multiple versions of the photo in the catalog, and I get confused when I have multiple versions. So I would rather export it again the next time I need it and delete the one that I exported before, rather than have multiple ones in my catalog. If the file exists, you can have it ask you what to do, or you can have it just overwrite it without a warning. Ask what to do. It'll say, do you want to overwrite this? Do you want to use a unique name? However you want to do it if it's already there. Just like when we imported it, you can create a custom name for it. A lot of different settings there. So I tend to, at this point, have it, I've tried to put a title on most of my photos. So I usually have it set up so it's adding the title and then adding the original suffix number. So if it's image _ 8923 out of my camera, it's going to change, get rid of that image. It's going to put in the title and then the suffix number for me. So you can see here, it's going to say egret check 79 wow 88. I didn't even know that was the phone number. I was close. Since nobody does video, we're not going to talk about video, but you have some options for video. File settings, you can choose what file type you want. So if you're outputting for the web, you probably want it to be a JPEG. It could be a DNG, but you probably want JPEG. If you're sending it to somebody to be printed, and they're a fairly high-end printer, they might want to have a TIFF file, which is a non-compressed file. It's a much larger file, so not all printers will accept them, because they don't want the big files sitting on their servers. So you need to talk to your printer and see what file type they want. If you can, do a TIFF. You could do as a Photoshop file too. Some places will take those, but not many. Or it could be the original, which if it's a raw file, you probably don't want to send an original because you don't have any of the changes. If it's a JPEG, you can then choose what quality you want. The bigger the number, the bigger the file, and the higher the quality. So I found that between 90 and 95 does some file reduction, but also keeps my quality pretty high. So I keep it up in there. Color space, if you're doing it to the web, you want sRGB. Color space is all about different color spaces show a different amount of color. So when you're looking at a photo on a screen, you can see more colors than you can when you print it. That's why screen pictures look more vivid than printed pictures, no matter what you're printing on. It's called gamut. It has a much larger gamut than a print does. And different color spaces have more gamut than others. So ProPhoto RGB has the largest color space, which means it shows the most different colors. But most browsers can't handle a ProPhoto RGB, and most software that you view it in can't handle that. So sRGB is going to limit your colors somewhat, but it's still available for everybody to see and not have any problems. Sometimes you'll need to send a photo to somebody or something, and either their email won't take a file size of a certain size, or the website won't, or whatever. So you can limit the file size. So if it's 100K, they say I can't have a file bigger than a 100K. It will limit that file size for you, and it will if you're shooting JPEG, it will adjust the quality to maximize the quality to that file size. Hopefully you don't have to do that. You can change the size of the image. So if you are putting a photo on a blog, you don't want to put you don't want to upload a photo bigger than the biggest it can be on the blog. So on my blog, it's 710 pixels wide. Any photo that's bigger than that is just a waste, and makes it easy for people to steal and reprint. And if it's bigger, it takes longer to upload and longer to download and display on your page. So you need to know what size you're outputting to. If you're going to output for print, send them the full file size. Even if they say we want it to be a certain size, uncheck that. That way it sends out the full size. They can resize it. They will do it in a way that maximizes the output. So uncheck that box if you're sending it to somebody to be printed. If you know what size you want it, check it here. If you're not sure if it's going to enlarge the photo, make it bigger than the original, click don't enlarge. You don't want to increase the size of the file, because that will make it look bad. Here you can put pixels. You have a choice of inches or centimeters, whatever, however you want to, and your resolution. If you're going to the web, it's always 72. A computer screen is 72 is all it can see. You don't need any more pixels per inch than that.
But if you're printing?
If you're printing, you're turning off your size, but
Okay.
minimum is probably 240. Most printers want at least 300 pixels per inch. So again, you can do sharpening. If you're doing it for screen, matte, or glossy, you have your choice of high, standard, or low. And again, what's that look like? We don't know until we output it, and then we'll see. Metadata, which we talked about earlier this morning, that seemed like 3 days ago, didn't it? You can have it just put only your copyright, your contact info. You can have it do all your metadata. It can strip out just the camera info. So again, if you shot pictures of your favorite child and you have a GPS turned on, you're telling the world right where that kid is. So you might want to strip out, not have all info. You know, you might only want to have contact and copyright info. So it strips out all that other info. Watermarking is essentially the same as when printing. You can put a watermark on your photo. I think they're worthless unless you're putting pictures on a site and people are looking at it, and you have a website and you want to promote yourself. If you're doing it for security, I can take that watermark off as fast as you can put it on. So we've never raced. So doing it for security doesn't do much. Doing it for publicity works. And when you're done post-processing, you can have it do nothing, which is what usually I want it to do, or show it in the Finder, or open it in Photoshop, or do other things. Okay, so then you click export, and your photo goes to wherever you put it. Great, that's cool. Do I have to go through that every time? No. You can create presets. So you notice here on the left side, I have quite a few user presets. So if I'm going to output my blog, I know that my photo for a blog, I can just click on blog photo, and it set up all of those presets that I used in my blog photo. So to create a preset, you go through and you make all those selections, then you click on add, and it's going to ask you for the name, and it's going to use all the information that's there, and store it in user presets. So if there are no other presets that you ever do, and you export photos for the same thing more than once, create a preset, because it will just save you a ton of time. And so you can also export multiple photos at once. So if I select multiple photos and I hit export and I select blog photo, it's going to export all of those photos at once. But even more better is I can right click on a photo, come down to export, and there are all my presets right there. And so I can quickly just bang, this is the preset I have for the blog that I do that is 910 pixels wide. So I named it blog 910. So I hit that and it goes to wherever I told it to go before, which is my blog folder. And there I'm good. That's all there is to Lightroom.
Yay, this is a great class.
Any questions at this point?
No, it's fantastic.
So as you do come across questions later on, just drop me an email and I'll help you however I can. You know, one of the things I hope the handout that I gave you helps you with is what were we talking about today? And if you can't, you know, oh, I remember what it was, but I don't remember exactly, it should be on that list. And if you can't remember the details, I'll have this video up tomorrow. Or just Google that thing and you can refresh your memory or really learn more in depth than the gloss over I did on some things today.
Where's that video? Is it going to be on your website?
It'll be on YouTube, but I'll give you the link to it.
Oh, okay.
So it's a
Private.
private link, yes. So
Oh, good.
so the only thing is I asked don't share it with the world because they didn't pay
Okay.
for the class, you did. So
I've just got two that are personal. So one is why I don't have previews. So I need to poke around and see if I can find those preview links, like locate my files. I think it's because I've moved stuff around.
Yep.
If I have trouble with that, I'll give you a call. And the other
Yes.
one is the printer. So
Yeah,
maybe even if we need to set up a one-on-one,
Yep,
if I
we can do
can't
it.
figure it out, that would be great.
okay.
They're my only two questions. So it's fantastic.
Okay. Anybody online have a question?
Thank you. Nice to meet you.
Okay, I see the dog's loose. Let me push her back out. Robin, can you grab a fudge for a sec? Thank you. Careful on the steps. Okay, anybody online have any questions at this point?
Lauren, this is Danielle.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear that, Danielle.
No, I was saying I'm good, not at the moment.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. And if you have questions in the future, you're part of Team Lauren now, so let me know.
Well, thank you very much for the class. It was very interesting.
Great.
Great, Lauren. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you.